everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mental Architecture, Building the Mind One Moment at a Time. My name's Howard Blumenfeld, and this video series is based off my book, Mental Architecture, Building the Mind One Moment at a Time, available exclusively on Amazon. So today I'm going to talk about part 3 of early childhood identity development theories. You can see the previous 2 parts in my 2 videos just before this. And this basically follows along with the opening of chapter 7 of my book, No Identity. So in the previous 2 sections, I talked at length about Piaget's theories of intellectual development with early childhood, and then also spoke about Vygotsky and Galperin. What I wanted to talk about today was a challenge to the commonly held belief that Piaget's theories were purely intellectual. That he basically only believed that children developed in 4 distinct stages. While definitely that's the core of his theory, people often overlook the more social side of his theory. So Professor Rheta DeVries was somebody who challenged the idea that Piaget only focused on intellectual development in children. He also talked about social development based on established social norms between parents and children, and he felt that those relationships were super important in determining how well a child would be able to adapt and learn. And so he broke this down into 2 main types of morality. The first type of morality he referred to as heteronomous morality. And what heteronomous morality is basically where parents order their children around and tell their children what to do, and the child follows along with that. And so Piaget felt like that type of learning, while very traditional, wasn't really great for the kids' sense of initiative and could actually be detrimental to their development later in terms of social relationships, because they're constantly used to being told what to do and they live in sort of a state of fear when it comes to others. As an alternative to heteronomous morality, Piaget described another type of morality that allowed the child to be more free and independent and think for themselves, and that's when the parent taught them about autonomous morality. So autonomous morality is where the child still respects their parents and still fears them in a healthy way, but at the same time is encouraged to develop their own ideas about social interactions and their own ideas about the world. They're not told what to do as much, and they are basically encouraged to start thinking for themselves. And so Piaget thought this was a healthier approach and would allow children to be more cooperative with each other, and that actually leads to the next idea that's kind of shrouded underneath autonomous morality, and that's called cooperation. And so Rheta DeVries has a really good quote about cooperation, which I want to share with you. According to Rheta DeVries, cooperating means striving to attain a common goal while coordinating one's own feelings and perspective with a consciousness of another's feelings and perspective. So put another way, cooperation is about children developing empathy, and Piaget felt that children were more likely to develop that if they had autonomous morality. And they, in that sense, could put themselves more easily in the shoes of others, not be as judgmental, and just get along with people a lot better. And one thing he said is that with heteronomous morality, you might be able to control your kid for a little while, but over time, it just gets harder to control your child as they grow into adults, because they naturally want to branch off and become more independent. So do you want a child who's going to rebel against you or who's going to work with you? And so Piaget would argue you definitely want to have a child who's more likely to cooperate with others. And so you can raise a child like that by giving them a little bit more freedom and space than trying to hover over them too much. So Piaget believed that children develop social schemes in a very similar way to how they develop physical schemes. And Rheta DeVries describes basically the child's personality as kind of coming together and consolidating over time. And I have another good quote to share with you from her. She said, "As a child acts and reacts in more or less stable ways in similar situations with a variety of people, personality becomes more consolidated and can be observed in consistent patterns." So Piaget was all about taking his ideas of intellectual development and combining them with his ideas of social development. He felt that children had to be able to make mental representations before they could form meaningful social interactions with others, because they have to have an idea or a concept of what that really entails. They have to start to build a concept of empathy, being able to put themselves in another person's shoes and see the world from their perspective and not only their own. Just like with object permanence, a child who's undergone the stages of Piaget's intellectual development would also have the sense of being able to think about another child's feelings or how they made a child feel, another friend feel after they left the room. So there's again, the mental representation of that child is there with them even when the child is not physically present with them. And so that requires a certain level of intellectual development to go along with the social development. So Piaget really wasn't that different from Vygotsky and Galperin in the sense that he believed that social interaction is what motivated intellectual development. And this is a point that Rheta DeVries tries to get across in her work, which is that Piaget didn't think that children were just little scientists sitting there alone acquiring knowledge. He really believed that they needed to interact with each other, and frequently too, and learn about reciprocity and learn about how to be fair with each other and how to respect each other and how to properly respect their adult figures. And so he referred to this idea of reciprocity as social equilibration. And so that's where you have like this equality in a social relationship. And this is something, again, that is learned throughout the different stages of Piaget's development. And Piaget's theories go on to explain that children even have to take on mental representations when they're just playing with each other. Like when they're at the park, and let's say that they're playing, a game of tag. One person is it, the other person is chasing them. And so there's a mental representation of what each role means. Or if they're playing baseball, there's a different positions on the field, all the way from, first base, second base, third base. Every person in the field, the batter, they all have a role to play in the social exchange. And so that does require some sophisticated, mental imagery and representations. And also, the children have to agree to the rules and agree to play those roles. And so that requires the social reciprocity. These are some complex ideas. Again, not that different from Vygotsky's ideas. Now, Piaget didn't believe that children going through their stages of development were doing so out of some kind of rigid set of rules, but it's just more their excitement, the emotions, and all that makes them want to cooperate with each other. And so it's very common for children in the pre-operational stage to not necessarily agree on the kind of game they're going to play with each other, or change things up. And so Piaget referred to those exchanges as regulations. And as children get older and they enter into the concrete operational stage, formal operational stage, as they exit childhood, this is where you start to see some of the social norms really take hold, personalities start to develop more, and children tend to, become more respectful of certain rules and boundaries, more aware of them, and also have an understanding that they can be flexible and manipulated as needed to make everybody happy in the social exchange, which is the ultimate goal. And I just wanted to share another quote from Rheta DeVries with you that talks about this in more detail. So she says, "The development of moral feelings is a particular type of the construction of effective schemas. Moral actions, according to Piaget, are disinterested. That is, these are not motivated by utilitarian personal interest or success. Children develop morality with each other out of respect for each other's feelings and perspectives, so they have to have sophisticated mental imagery and mental operations, according to Piaget, to be able to do this. But ultimately the goal is fairness, the goal is to treat each other as equals, and he believes that schools should focus on teaching children autonomous morality and less about, less heteronomous approaches. They want children to be able to really work with each other to cooperate and figure out what works best for them and be adaptable. And when you're constantly told what to do, it's not as easy to be like that. Then you may grow up to become kind of authoritarian yourself because that's what you learned. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Mental Architecture, Building the Mind One Moment at a Time. I'll be back next time with an episode on comprehensive identity development theories. We'll start with the theory of Erik Erikson, and so this is where we're going to go beyond childhood into adulthood and even late adulthood. So we'll cover the entire lifespan, and we'll also look at some alternative theories. This will be another multiple part series, just like this one was for early childhood development theories. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the bell, ring the bell to be notified of future videos when they come out. You can also visit me on my Instagram page right here, and you can see tons of great content. I have facts, feelings, and quotes all about deep psychology. It's the deepest psychology on the internet. And you could also get my book on Amazon, and I have an audio book in the works. I hope everybody has a great week, and I look forward to bringing you more videos soon. Thank you. Bye, guys.